Welcome back, Red Spotters. This is the Red Spotlight Podcast. I'm your host, Alexis J. Soto, joined by Mr. David Francisco. This is his first podcast, I want to say, in, a month and a half, close to 2 months. It's been quite some time. I know October was a pretty busy month for a whole bunch of new movies. And I don't know, what was the last thing you and I discussed? I hope it wasn't the show where we talked about our favorite TV shows of 2020. Of course, you'll notice how that was a while back, and yet we still haven't produced a top 10 list for the year of 2020, and doesn't seem like that's going to happen considering how recent developments have forebode, as it were. Today, David and I are back, and we're going to do a catch-up. You know, every now and then David has a couple of weeks where he's not on a show, and we like to catch up with him and give his, and that way we can get his takes on some of the films that we've been discussing. So, Eternals is a pretty hot ticket right now as far as like the kind of takes that people are having on it, you know, as well as Dune and No Time to Die. And I believe later on David will also give his thoughts on the series finale of Lucifer, and then he's also been seeing Lock and Key, and then perhaps some other stuff. You know, we have plenty of surprises on our podcasts here on Red Spotlight number 356. David, hello. I haven't seen you, I think, since September, it seems like. How was your October? How was your Halloween? How are you and Moreno doing over there in the place we shall not name?
Oh yeah, it was fine. I gave out candy and all for a while, but
You were candy man?
yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, it's been an interest. I think it's been 2 weeks ago almost since Halloween, which is crazy. To think about how quickly time is going away, but it's been kind of an interesting time, I'll say. You know, October gave us a lot of, I think, wonderful movies. Well, actually, if you look at it, like with October, we had 4 films that we reviewed, 4 main movies. 2, I think, got really positive reviews, and then 1 got really mixed reviews, and then 1, I would say, got overwhelmingly negative reviews. And I think we all know which ones I'm talking about there if you've listened, and I'm sure you've listened to all of them for as much as you wanted to. And with November, it's looking interesting, right? So Eternals, I don't know if you had a chance to listen to both the Red Spotlight and Fantasy Fair reviews for the film, but it's definitely been, I'd say, one of the most, if not the single most fascinating movie to talk about just this year, because of not only all the different reactions, not only our own differences and reactions about it, but I think there's some kind of a rarity that did happen here. Like, I'll say, I think for the most part, everybody agrees on what the problems are with the movie. And yet, for all of that, there are some differences in terms of like how everybody felt about it. I think there is still a range from Kyle to Alexis Moreno, where Kyle definitely liked it the least, to where I feel his final word on it was he was in the negative of it overall, and Alexis was very much in the affirmative, as in she loved it. And then you, me, and Peter, I think it fell somewhere along the middle, although things have definitely been changing. And I have to say, for me, it's kind of rare these days where I myself am kind of shell-shocked with how my mind has changed. But I think you could tell throughout the course of the 2 recordings. Full disclosure, of course, the Fantasy Fair recording took place the day before the Red Spotlight recording. So, and I believe I made mention of that. And I apologize, David, that it's this late and you're tired.
No,
But thank you for being on the podcast anyway. And I'll try not to go on and on, but I'm sure that the point of what I'm trying to say is there were, even between those two episodes, some differences. And even as the conversations progressed with both of them, there were some things that I felt more positive on the movie. By the end of the conversation I had with Peter, I even told him, you know what, if you want to go see it again, I'm down, just because I feel like I need to. Usually when I go see movies again and again and again, it's because I love them the first time, I love them so much more the second time, and I want to keep seeing them. It's rare that I go see a movie again just because I wasn't sure how I felt about it, you know? Mm-hmm. And things have definitely changed, and we're going to discuss that in great detail. But before we get to that, I know I had all this set up. We'll just hold on to that for a minute. We've been talking a lot about Marvel with Eternals and everything. And so it turns out today was the day for the Red Spotlight team to just like not so subtly drop how what their rankings are for the MCU and everything. And I'm not asking you at all to create a list or anything. Maybe you have one, maybe you're not ready to update it. And it is difficult. But some of us did, at least for me, I had to give it a couple of days only because, my mind just couldn't be made up. And it was, my thoughts on the particular Eternals movie was evolving literally day by day. Mm-hmm. So when I first thought about adding this movie into the list, I'm not going to lie, it was kind of close to the bottom. And now it's kind of progressed in a much more dramatic fashion in the other direction. But you know what? Let me just go ahead and reveal what the lists are, because I can now, because they're public knowledge, and just to get those feelings across. But I also want people to know, just to see, a lot of the times we may agree and sometimes we may disagree, but no list is the same. I think the three lists I'm going to read out to you are mine, Peter's, and Kyle's. And David, I'm sure you can agree, there were some pretty dramatic differences.
Yeah.
Some similarities.
Actually,
do you want to say more?
No, actually, I got to look at Peter's again, just because it's him putting in the shows throws me off. Okay,
you see, I told them it wasn't just me, but you know what? Don't worry, I'm not going to acknowledge that as canon. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm going to help the whole audience because, of course, they don't have access to that. So I'm going to read the lists right now. So here is Peter Martinez's ranked MCU. Would you prefer I read this from number 1 to number 26, or from 26 to number 1?
1 to 26.
Okay. So, number 1 being his favorite, number 26 being least favorite. So, in this order, number 1, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Number 2, Marvel's The Avengers. Number 3, the original Guardians of the Galaxy. Number 4, Iron Man, which is interesting because Peter has lately not been so hot on that one. Number 5, Captain America the First Avenger. Number 6, Avengers Infinity War. Number 7, Captain America the Winter Soldier. Another one I find interesting because I don't recall him being as positive lately about that movie either. Number 8, Iron Man 3. Number 9, Captain America Civil War. Number 10, Thor Ragnarok. Number 11, Eternals. Number 12, Avengers Endgame. Number 13, Spider-Man Homecoming. Number 14, Avengers Age of Ultron. Number 15, Iron Man 2. Number 16, Shang-Chi. Number 17, Thor. Number 18, Hulk, the Incredible Hulk. Number 19, Ant-Man. Number 20, Doctor Strange. Number 21, Black Panther. Number 22, Spider-Man Far From Home. Number 23, Black Widow. Number 24, Captain Marvel. Number 25, Thor the Dark World. And number 26, of course, Ant-Man and the Womp Womp. So that is Peter's list. Any initial thoughts on that one?
Wait, where was his Eternals?
Eternals, number 11.
11. Oh, okay.
That's outside the top 10. That's pretty fucking high.
It's still
considering.
Close. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, this is actually surprising. He and I have Shang-Chi and Incredible Hulk in the same place.
Yeah. That's not the last time we're going to see the weird. Some of the numbers are exactly the same. So when you say you have Shang-Chi in the same place,
it's on
keep in mind. Number 16?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Some of these are, I feel like, with some exceptions, you'll see the same group of movies toward the top and a certain group of movies toward the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you'll see that.
Yeah, I think we just have like different arrangements in our top 10. All
Sure.
of us. For sure.
Yeah, very clearly. So I like, no, that's for sure. So that's Peter's list. Let me get to Kyle's list. This one's a little bit different, I think, although some of it's the same. So like for, here's a little bit of the same one. His number 1 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. It's a great movie. Of course, I think it's a great contender to be number 1. Number 2, by the way, if you haven't listened, David and I did an audio commentary on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 earlier this year. Go out and listen to that one. His number 2, Kyle's number 2 on his list is Iron Man. That's no surprise. He loves that movie. Number 3, the original Guardians of the Galaxy. Number 4, Marvel's The Avengers. Number 5, Captain America Civil War. This one is surprising considering where it is, especially when it's directly in front. I'm thinking he is the only one that has Civil War as the best of the 4 Russo brothers directed Marvel movies. That's interesting. So number 6, Avengers Endgame. Number 7, Avengers Infinity War. Number 8, Captain America the Winter Soldier. Number 9, Thor Ragnarok. Number 10, Iron Man 2. That's probably the highest anybody has Iron Man 2. And I'm going to also say for number 11, probably the highest anybody has this one at number 11 would be Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. At number 12 is Spider-Man Homecoming. And number 13 is Avengers Age of Ultron. At number 14 is Captain America the First Avenger. At number 15, which is pretty low, number 15 is Spider-Man Far From Home. Number 16 is Captain Marvel. Number 17 is the original Thor. Number 18 is Black Panther. Number 19 is Doctor Strange. At number 20, pretty fucking low, Iron Man 3. He'll never get over the Mandarin thing, would he? Which I guess it's totally fair, by the way, I guess. Number 21, Eternals. Number 22, Ant-Man. Number 23, Thor the Dark World. Number 24, Black Widow. Number 25, Ant-Man and the Wasp. And number 26, The Incredible Hulk. So yeah, I don't know if anybody else put The Incredible Hulk dead last. I think Kyle may be the only one at that. I don't blame him though, because when we did the last time he saw that, we watched it together. And it was, I have to tell you, perhaps the single most excruciating audio commentary we've ever done, because we kind of ran out of things to say 30 minutes in, and then we still had a whole lot of movie to talk about. So it was an excruciating experience. So I don't blame him for that. Whatsoever. But again, like Black Widow, pretty fucking low. Ant-Man and the Wasp, of course, it's there for a reason. There is, of course, The Dark World. The thing is with the Dark World, real quick, it's like it is very clearly at the bottom of it. But the thing is, it's like it's bad, but it's the kind of bad where I don't really hate the movie, you know? I guess like with movies like Ant-Man and Doctor Strange and Black Panther, And Captain Marvel and Black Widow, with those movies, I feel like what they suffer from is they should have been so much better. And I should remember them more.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't.
Yeah, especially because of what they did to them and like Endgame. And...
yeah. So it's maybe that's just my personal reasons, but like I don't know, like at the very least, Thor: The Dark World has some magic with Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston. But it's not really good either, so it's, I guess there's that. So that's Kyle's list. Anything to say about him?
No.
I think those are just my observations there. So for me, my list, my number 1 currently is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. My number 2 would be Avengers: Endgame. Number 3 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And number 4 is Captain America: The First Avenger. At number 5 is Guardians of the Galaxy. At number 6 is Avengers: Infinity War. At number 7 is Captain America: Civil War. At number 8 is the original Avengers. At number 9 is Iron Man. Number 10 is Thor: Ragnarok. Curiously enough, at number 11, off the bat, Eternals. Pretty fucking high. And literally the exact place Peter also put it. A deeply flawed film, but already at number 11. Go figure. Mm-hmm. At number 12 is Spider-Man: Homecoming. At number 13 is Iron Man 3. At number 14 is Avengers: Age of Ultron. At number 15 is the original Thor. At number 16 is Spider-Man: Far From Home. Although that may change depending on, well, we'll see. Number 17, Iron Man 2. And number 18, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. At number 19 is Captain Marvel. At number 20 is Black Panther. Number 21 is Ant-Man. Number 22 is Doctor Strange. Number 23 is Thor: The Dark World. 24, Black Widow. 25, The Incredible Hulk. And 26, Ant-Man and the Womp Womp. So, yeah, that's the second list to feature. I want to say, yeah, Peter and I have Ant-Man and the Wasp at the very bottom. We have Eternals exactly the same at number 11. Shang-Chi is more or less around the same spot. And then, so far, the movie doing the best, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Peter, number 1. Kyle, number 1. It's my number 3. But yeah. There is that. What do you think, David? What does your list look like?
Well, yeah.
Or yeah, go ahead.
The top 10 is like very different from everyone else's. Or not very, but like, it's just different arrangements basically. So my number 1 actually is Avengers: Infinity War. 2, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. 3, Captain America: Civil War. 4, Spider-Man: Homecoming. 5, Captain America: The First Avenger. 6, Avengers: Endgame. 7, Thor: Ragnarok. 8, Age of Ultron. 9, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. 10, Avengers. 11, Guardians of the Galaxy. 12, Iron Man. Doctor Strange, number 13. 14, Ant-Man. 15, Eternals. 16, Shang-Chi.
That's still high for a lot of people's takes, by the way.
No, yeah.
With Eternals, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Spider-Man: Far From Home, 17. Hulk, 18. Black Panther, 19. Black Widow, 20. Captain Marvel, 21. Iron Man 3, 22. Thor: The Dark World, 23. Iron Man 2, 24. Thor, 25. And Ant-Man and the Wasp at 26.
Yeah. That's the third person that put that one Dead last. That's 3 out of 4 lists. That should tell you something about the movie. Again, another common theme here. It's like, I guess, that pretty much answers the question about what we thought about Eternals, right? So it's pretty high, I would say, and pretty unconventional, I would say, for most people. But yeah, considering the fact that it's like it's regarded as, I guess, the worst Marvel movie by different metrics. You put it at number 15, Peter and I number 11. Yeah. And then Kyle's the only one that put it toward the bottom, I think. That should probably, that tells you a lot, I feel. And I don't know where Alexis would put Eternals, but she loved this the most, so I would be most curious to see that list off the bat. You put Infinity War as number 1.
Yeah,
okay. It's so great. It's a great fucking movie. Yeah, no, I think like, yeah, no, you do you, man. Like that's a great fucking movie, and I love it. And no, I respect the choice, that's for sure, because I know a lot of people kind of like, put their nose up on the movie. It's like, well, it's not really a film. It's like a collection of scenes and characters, and it's like, that's a pretty dismissive critique. It's a lot more than that. I mean, honestly, it's not even just that. It's an actual movie.
Yeah,
like an actual film. It's a Thanos movie. Honestly, the movie could just be renamed Thanos Infinity War.
Yeah, for sure. No, even the director said like it's not an Avengers movie, it's a Thanos movie. Yeah. And I mean, just what I love about it though is just it really felt like everything that built up was like perfectly in place for them to make this story, to make like the villain win. Yeah. And so it's just kind of like every time I watch it, I'm like, I don't think there's like any other way you could have written this story. Like I can't see them having Thor arrive on Earth safely or something. I'm like, no, because like that would drastically change the story. And so it's just so great for me. And I mean, I love the action. The CGI is still like incredible, especially for Thanos, obviously. And and then this is the one where, I got what I really wanted was just a bunch of interactions with the characters. When Iron Man first meets Doctor Strange, it's just like that little back and forth they get. It's great. And yeah.
No, it's I feel like maybe some people don't give it enough credit, but it's a devastating movie. And so many, it's devastatingly good. As far as like the craft is concerned and the execution of it. But also like there was some aspects of the movie that I think definitely were brought Marvel to a new peak in some ways, because it felt like the first movie where they kind of were successful in being kind of operatic, especially with the Alvin Silvestri score, which is so good. The music in that movie, honestly, it's just like, it's beautiful, breathtaking even. Also like the VFX work, like that movie is almost entirely VFX, and yet it looks perfect. How that didn't how that didn't win Best Visual Effects? Oh my God, I don't know, man. That's rigged.
It should have won for Thanos alone. I mean,
exactly.
It's just so
yes.
great.
Of course, the performance in and of itself is great. I mean, considering all the elements at play, considering all the different characters, the promise that this had, for it to have come out as good as it did, I mean, I don't know what more you could have asked for. So I think it's a damn good contender for the best Marvel movie. And it's like, considering that Marvel is like basically the Star Wars of this generation, this franchise, like it's honestly a pretty, I don't know if it, I don't want to say ominous, but I think it's pretty like interesting how the conversation surrounding Infinity War and Endgame feels very much like the legacies of The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, where it's like both are very good movies. I think there's an argument that could be made that as a film, perhaps the first part or not the first part, but the middle, Empire and Infinity War are maybe technically better, but then of course, what an Endgame and Jedi have going in their favor, they're the emotional finales, and they over deliver on that. If containing some flaws here and there. But even then, like, that's, I think, a pretty high bar to reach. The fact that, like, you have a combo with Infinity War and Endgame that are pretty much, in essence, this generation's Empire and Jedi. That's pretty fucking great. Yeah. So that's where things stand. I can't wait to hear what Alexis has to say about all this. We've definitely given her plenty of scenario lists to think about. That's for sure. And of course, I feel like this is a pretty damning indictment on the fact that you shouldn't include TV shows in this, because legitimately speaking, there are very different reasons for why it throws me off. For one, like, Peter has a hard time doing a list for TV seasons because he gets like, he isn't sure how to compare, seasons of televisions, because, it's, a different number of episodes. Some seasons are earlier in a show's run. Some seasons are later in a show's run. Like, he feels weird about it. I don't at all, but he has a big issue over it. Where my big issue lies in, it's like, I think ranking TV shows and movies are fine, but when you throw them in together, number one, it's weird. Number two, it makes it even more difficult. Because if I were to include certain TV shows, well, let me just say, if I were to include WandaVision, Falcon, and Loki in this, well, those aren't the only TV shows that kind of sort of connect to the MCU first and foremost. So if I were to include those shows, I mean the Disney Plus series, first of all, why isn't What If in this list? Isn't that supposed to be quote unquote canon, and yet it's been mysteriously left out? I know it's a multiverse show, but it's the Marvel bitches tell me it's canon, so why wasn't What If featured on those lists? That seems pretty suspicious. But, more to the point, everything kind of related to this universe, I would put it. So that would include, in my view, the 10 or 12, however, shows that were produced by Marvel Entertainment, because if people forget, Marvel Studios President Chief Kevin Feige basically treated those shows, in their original broadcasts as they were extensions of the MCU. We all know for various reasons why that no longer is the case. Fact of the matter is, at one point in time, they were looked at to be extensions in this universe, and I guess it's up to the individual person to decide what they want to view of the MCU, right? But at the same time, that also just muddies the water, and it complicates things even further. But it's also, with the shows, like, you have, like, here's the thing. You have several episodes, which means a longer runtime, which means more focus on character. And I feel like we've already established that, for whatever reason, with the 3 Marvel TV shows, they've been able to have a much sharper focus on character development that a lot of the movies just can't have. So in some ways, it's just not fair to the movies to include those shows, first and foremost. And that's just the Disney Plus series. If I were to include the stuff from, like, the ABC television network or the Netflix shows, well, that, honestly, I'd like to see a version of that. It'd be weird, but I think it would kind of be, it would be difficult also to figure out where exactly they would land. My guess would be is they would be pretty fucking high. Some of them would be pretty fucking high. Some of them would be fucking last. I mean, I think we can all agree that if we were to include those TV shows, Ant-Man and the Wasp, it would be a race to the bottom between Ant-Man and the Wasp and the Inhumans. Because here's the thing. The Inhumans is the worst, but at least it made me laugh. which is a lot. Really, it did, which is a lot more than Ant-Man and the Wasp, which is a movie that is supposedly designed to make you laugh, only it never once did. So, Inhumans is technically the worst thing they ever made. That's not even a question. But do I hate it as much as I do Ant-Man and the Wasp? No. So, you see how things were? Are like, and let's see, like, where would you put Daredevil? I know Daredevil's your favorite Marvel show. Where would you put that? With all, like, if you were to put it in a list of movies, if you can even imagine that.
That's hard.
Right?
I mean, honestly, I think I'd probably put it in the top 5.
Yes. Would it get number 1?
Probably not.
It's hard, man. It's hard. I think Daredevil definitely deserves a top... Fuck. I would say, no, easily a top 10 spot. It had to, I think, it deserves a top 10 spot.
For sure.
But here's also the thing, let's say, like, if you were to include S.H.I.E.L.D., that's 7 years of, like, episodes, right? That's 7 years, and that's a lot more time. I think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has the most number of minutes, right?
Yeah, basically.
136 episodes? So, I don't know, that's kind of an unfair advantage of some of these people. I'm going to be real with you. So, yeah. More to the point, we have been talking about doing a list like this, where we if we were to include the TV show. So, I don't know. We'll talk about it, David and I, and we'll decide if we want to do that or not. But that'll make it interesting. So, now with that out of the way with, let's go ahead and talk about the Eternals. David, before you even give your thoughts on the movie, I know I started off the episode with like kind of a long preamble, as I always do, of course, but just to catch people up of like how the lay of the land has been with our group's takes on the Eternals. What have you made? After listening to all of the talk and all of the debate, not so much at this point, I'm not asking you what do you make of the movie. What have you made of our reactions of the movie?
No, I mean, I think it made sense, everyone's reactions. I haven't finished the Fantasy Fair one, so I don't really know much about Kyle's take on it, but I mean, he liked it the least. So, but again, I understand everyone's reactions, because even I was kind of like, I know I liked it, but oof, basically. And so it was just mostly interesting, kind of like seeing what everyone took from the movie. Like, they know they saw this and this in the movie, but like kind of, I guess some other stuff went over you guys' head. But then it's also just kind of interesting to see like what you guys enjoyed more about the movie than the other. But like all of it just mostly had to do with character still, like, but it was always a focus on the specific character and what their motivations were. But yeah, I don't know. It's just, yeah, listening to everyone's takes on it. It was really interesting.
Okay. I'll say some of it was surprising. Like I told you, I'm surprised. I walked out of the first screening kind of not caring about it and sad. I'm thinking pretty viciously toward the movie. I walk out of it a second time, and I'm like, did I like this? And then I went to go see it again with Peter, and and you know what? I was sitting there. At this point, I had already talked about it with Alexis and Kyle, and I had already talked about it with Peter. And I gotta be honest though, it's like I'm sitting there and watching it for the third time. Felt like I was watching it for the first time. Like, I feel like I understood a lot more, like, what, Chloe Zhao was getting at. And I know, like, it's not a good defense to where, like, oh, now you can fill in the blanks of stuff that you didn't see. And to be fair, no one really, I feel, in our group is using that as defenses. I mean, if that's an issue, there's no defense really, and yeah, you're probably right about it, but I think it just depends on who you are as to like if you're willing to overlook that and appreciate what is there. And I think that was my overall experience the third time. It's just like, for whatever reason, maybe it's just me accepting the movie for what it is, but I was really, really enjoying it that third time. Honestly, like I know I made a big deal about how the flashbacks kind of threw off the pacing and the editing. And then my first initial thoughts of it. But by that third viewing, it wasn't a problem in the least. It wasn't. I even enjoyed Richard Madden as Icarus that third time, where I kind of didn't the first two times. Yeah, man, it's like, it's a weird journey. I don't think I can ever, I'm not sure I've ever had that experience where I've gone from not liking it to thinking that I liked it to now, no, I think I know I like this. And I think why it's at number 11, why I put it that high, because it aims so high. And above all, it's interesting. And even though some things are amiss, the attempt and the beauty in that movie are more of what I want Marvel to do. And for better or for worse, I've retained the movie in my mind. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of like thinking about it and feeling it after having seen it. And you can make a good argument that Shang-Chi is, technically speaking, from a structural standpoint, a better movie. I think there is something to be said for the fact that it hasn't stayed with me. When Shang-Chi left my mind, basically after we talked about the podcast, after we talked about it on the podcast, Shang-Chi, the review, I haven't thought about it since. With Eternals, though, I've constantly been thinking about it. I've even went back and listened to the score, which is really good, by the way. So, yeah. And then with Peter, what was surprising is his entire reaction was surprising to me. I was thinking he was going to, like, not be hot on the movie, but, like...
Same.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, you just, like... When he said he liked it, I was, like, blown away. Like, what? Okay, this is... And it felt a lot like how they punked me on fucking Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Remember, they did an After Dark video where Peter spent the first couple of minutes saying that he hated the movie. And then, like, halfway through, he was like, actually, I'm BSing. I just wanted to fuck with Alexis. I loved it. If you can remember that from a couple of years ago. So, I was so surprised.
Yeah, honestly... For real though, me too. Like, I was waiting for him to be like, "Oh, I feel different," or like, "Oh, I hated this," or something like that. But no, he straight up said, "I liked it." I'm like, "Really?" and then I'm basically the same as Peter though. Like, I did like the movie. It's just there was some problems with it, and a lot of it just had to do because there was so many characters in the movie that. More than half of it was just introduction. And so, and then because there was so much introduction, there wasn't everything that was set up with these characters. There wasn't really anything that like backed up their motivation or anything, at least to me. So like with Cersei, I don't really see what her struggle was, honestly. Like, I know she had the responsibility of being the leader now, and she has to make like the big choice of saving the world or destroying Celestial. But like, I just never really, there wasn't really a moment for her to be like, to have that struggle. It was just sort of
it's not that clear, right? Because there are moments where she, in my mind, what are the moments that she struggles, quote unquote, right? So she very clearly is heartbroken over the fact that Icarus murdered Ajak, and has been lying to her the whole time, and kind of feels hopeless that he's now standing in the way of them putting the eternal to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. I feel the movie was trying to make it seem as if the big struggle for Cersei at the end of the day was, would she sacrifice the life of a Celestial? Does she love the people of this planet so much to the point that she would kill a Celestial?
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that's not really a struggle that's introduced until basically the end of the movie.
Well, I mean, I think that was a struggle in the middle of the movie for everyone.
Yeah.
Because, and it was an interesting thing for them to talk about, like, do we sacrifice someone that's going to make 1,000 more planets, or
right.
do we save this planet? And so, but again, though, for me, there wasn't like a lot of, it was kind of
inner turmoil.
Yeah, I guess. It was just, for one thing, that sort of debate was added in the middle of the movie. Again,
yes.
Interesting, and I like their conversations. I like what Kingo.
Yes,
Kumail. I was just say Kumail. Kumail's decision was in the end. I thought it was like really interesting. But then everything else beforehand, I think the only character honestly that had like a good setup and payoff was Sprite. I noticed from the very beginning that like she wasn't okay with Cersei and Nicker's marriage and all that. She was pretty jealous about it, and I like that bit also in the beginning where she was at the bar and she made like an illusion of herself, making herself look older. I was like, that's cool. And so it's just, and so you just had little moments of her being, she's still being seen as the child of the group, even though she's 7,000 years old and everything. And so I liked her motivation in the end, her going to Icarus and all that. She got fucking knocked out at the end, like, to stop her. Oh my god!
Every time I think about that, I just break out in laughter. Even the third time I saw it, Peter and I were just cracking up. Even the theater is just like, it's just funny.
It comes out of nowhere too, and they like you're seeing a little kid like getting hit in the head, and you're just kind of like, oh my god, are you okay? And so, oh my god, it's so funny. I don't know why. Sorry. But everyone else though, it was just, again, it wasn't a lot of backup to their to what was set up in the beginning, especially with that one guy, the inventor, Fastos. You know, they were just like, oh, he doesn't like humanity anymore, and you see the reason. It's like, okay, cool. The next scene, he has a family. I'm like, okay,
it's very much like, it's like you're watching maybe a season of TV and fast forward or something. It's like, oh, did we skip some things here? Yeah, that's very much indicative of how the movie is. It's like, it's messy, but it also very much feels like a lot of the development of these characters we just don't see, and I kind of very much like, I feel like at some point maybe the decision was made like, look, the only way I'm going to be able to make this work, Zhao, is like, I'm just going to have to, even though like it's kind of indefensible really when it comes to a movie. It's like, I'm just going to have to trust people fill in the blanks as to like what happens in a story that takes place throughout the course of 7,000 years. Which isn't really it's not really a good defense, but it's the only one I can come up with. It's like, well, I guess there's that. And if you're willing to like, if you can see the blanks that were missed, maybe you can enjoy it the more, like, but still, like, you're right. Yeah. We jump from like him being devastated to him having a family.
No, yeah. And then now the thing that I did like the most about the movie, about what made me like the movie, for one thing, the characters. Despite their motivations and all that, I found them to be really funny. I found them to be entertaining, especially like Gilgamesh.
He was cool,
his
man.
introduction. Yeah. I mean, not just like in the beginning, like how he fought and everything.
Yeah.
But also just kind of like what you, in that bit in the beginning or in the middle of the movie, like how he spent his like whole 7,000 years here, I just found it really entertaining, and I actually did wind up caring about him until he died.
Yeah.
Again, spoilers. And also, and then what I found the most interesting part though is that the whole time with his and Tina's relationship, I was waiting for the moment to like maybe they kiss or one of them says like they love each other or something, and I was like, dang, like this is how like movies kind of like warp my mind a bit. Like I was waiting for that moment where they like say they love each other. I'm like, no, they can just care about each other. They can just be friends, and so
they loved each other in a different way. But I think you, real quick, that scene, I think. Look, this is a great reminder of how great an actor Angelina Jolie is. Mm-hmm. I think she definitely sold that moment when she realized that Gilgamesh died, and then even also just like the quiet moment she had when she has his ashes and then just sprinkling them in the water. It was beautiful stuff. Mm-hmm. Or even later on in the film when that deviant is pretty much like using his stolen memories, kind of like how Hive did in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Mm-hmm. There's my quota, guys. I mentioned Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and put in a reference in there somewhere where he would use stolen memories of people he killed and absorbed. By the way, I haven't mentioned this. Every time it's been so cool. When Thena sliced up that deviant, that was good to see. Mm-hmm. That was like an oh shit moment. Mm-hmm.
And so I just kind of like, I really like what Chloe Zhao did with that relationship. It's just kind of like, it's very different from any other movie. Mm-hmm. And so I definitely want to rewatch the movie just for that, just to kind of like get my mind off of the fact that, no, they're not a couple. They're not married or anything. Like these are just good fucking friends. Mm-hmm. And then the big thing that I liked is that it's just a movie about a family, basically, about like just sticking together through thick and thin. And so with Icarus's turn, I did find it a bit surprising. Like I knew from the trailers and like what people were theorizing that he was going to be the villain, but throughout the movie I was like, how is he going to be the villain? I don't understand. But then when you finally see the turn, I'm like, okay, that's where he becomes that's where you see the villain side of it.
I didn't walk into the movie expecting or having any kind of mind that Icarus would be a bad guy. However, I got really suspicious of him halfway through the movie where Cersei finds out what the emergence is and she tells everybody what their real mission was. And I remember that I immediately remember the trailer. Wait a minute. Didn't in the trailer Ajax, we see the scene where Ajax tells Icarus, I guess the beginning portion of it, because in the trailer for Eternals, Ajax, like 5 years ago, the people of Thanos wiped out half of existence with a snap of and then the people of this planet brought them back with the snap of the fingers. And we hadn't seen that scene. We've already seen that Ajax was killed, but we hadn't seen that scene between Ajax and Icarus. And so in my mind, I'm like, this fucker knows. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, did he? Mm-hmm. There's something suspicious going on here. And then, lo and behold, as the movie progresses, then we find out what actually happened. And I'm like, fucking bitch. Of course.
Yeah, I forgot about that part of the trailer when I first saw it. So it still came as a surprise for me. That's funny.
And you were expecting Icarus to be the bad guy.
Yeah, I know. It's just kind of like, I was waiting for like, okay, what's he going to do to the team that's going to like mess them up? And then I saw what he did. So.
At least it wasn't a ransom moment. Oh my god! For those who are not aware, I'm talking about Ransom, the character, the Chris Evans character from the Rian Johnson Whodunit, Knives Out, a tremendous movie. And I evidently spoiled it for David, the twist with that character.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, you still enjoyed it, right?
Yes. Again, it's really a story about family sticking together through thick and
Oh,
thin.
no, I meant Knives Out.
Oh, Knives Out.
That
Yeah, I
is,
still
that's
like.
also a story about family, but in a different kind of family.
Oh yeah, I love Knives Out. It's great. It's hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. What else did you love about the movie? Or dislike?
Well, Ajax, she should have been in it more.
Right? You see, I wasn't alone in this. It wasn't.
Yeah,
Let me tell you, what Alexis shared of Salma Hayek's in one of her interviews, I think it was with one of the Spanish language networks. That was a really. Did she show you?
Mm-hmm.
That was a really emotional thing to see.
Mm-hmm.
And good for Salma Hayek, who is, a Latina in her 50s in Hollywood and getting roles like this. But, she in this interview, she's describing what it was like to put the costume on for the first time and how she couldn't believe how a little girl like her, with, her brown skin and thinking about where she came from as a kid, to be able to have something, to be able to wear something like this and basically be at the, at the top of the hill, and to think of what other little girls would think of when they see this. Like, it's definitely groundbreaking. And for me especially, I just realized this myself about like why I liked her so much in this role. And I understand, I think there have been other actors in the MCU that are of Latin descent or have some kind of relation to being in the Latino community, like Zoe Saldana, for instance. Mm-hmm. But the thing with Zoe, she's green, so I'm not really thinking about the fact that she's in that ethnicity because she's always with that makeup and everything. Mm-hmm. Correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm not counting what's his name, Luis from Ant-Man. Because he's not the lead. Or he's not one of the leads.
He's not really a superhero. It's just, he's literally just the side. Well, not even the sidekick, honestly. He's just the comedic relief. Yeah.
But I think like Salma Hayek, we can easily say she's the only Mexican. Like, I mean, not just Hispanic, but just Mexican who in a Marvel movie. I'm talking about the movie here. I don't want to piss off Natalia Cordova-Buckley because she has said some things on Twitter that are pretty interesting. Maybe I'll share it with you. But she's the only Mexican, I think, that has been the lead, a lead in an ensemble, but still, she is heavily used in the marketing of the movie that I can think of in the MCU, right? Mm-hmm. Right? Like, I'm not missing anybody.
Yeah, I mean, in the MCU, yeah. Miles Morales is half
short. He's not in the MCU, though.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, in the MCU, Salma Hayek, but like, you got Miles, sort of. But I mean, still for Salma, yeah, it's basically just her.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm not sure if I made a point, but she was one of the reasons I was excited to see the movie. And you know what? She's great. She's great in every scene she's in. I would have loved more. Mm-hmm. That was my only issue. I was kind of disappointed to see that she was the first one killed off. Like, really? Mm-hmm. Of all the people, this is the one? And so I think, like, even while me not necessarily, like, overtly demanding it for years and years, the fact that her presence and how I responded so, like, negatively to her being offed off immediately, just like, okay, maybe this did mean to me subconsciously the entire time, and it means a lot to have someone that looks like you on that screen. It does make the difference, and also just makes you question, why hasn't there been more Latinos in the leads of these movies? Yeah, that's a good question. So yeah, let me just read to you real quick. I know I sent it to you, didn't I?
You sent one tweet, but I don't know if there was more.
Yesterday, anyway, that clip of Salma Hayek was beautiful, and I hope everyone goes out and see it, because she definitely had an emotional experience, and people had emotional experiences to her talking about her emotional experience. But someone tagged Natalia Cordova Buckley, who played Elena Rodriguez or Elena Yo-Yo Rodriguez on the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show. That's number 2 today, guys. Bringing it back to S.H.I.E.L.D. And she actually responded to it. And that is how, BuzzFeed had mentioned that Salma Hayek was added to a short list of other Latinas like Zoe Saldana and Tessa Thompson. I did not know Tessa Thompson was Latina, but okay. Who have graced the MCU with their presence. And the impact of another Latina joining the franchise that isn't, lost on Salma at all. And of course, to be fair to BuzzFeed, they're talking about the movies here. But there have been other superheroes, quote unquote, more than just the movies that have had, some presence. So Natalia, who, by the way, I should say is very socialist, and that's a good thing, by the way, in case anybody was, mincing words there. But I think she brought up a pretty fair point, and that is like, I'm not famous, technically speaking. I'm not on TV. I am on TV, which is treated as less than film. That's changing somewhat, but that's still, I'd say, technically true. Even though for the last decades, it's been producing better content than films. That, again, depending on what you mean, on which projects, but that can be true. It's not only the world that holds an elitist system, it's also our industry and the media. You don't get mentioned unless you're someone. So she's now, I think, the second person attached to S.H.I.E.L.D. that has made some headlines. Well, I'm not even sure this is a headline, but she's made comments about how they're just ignored. Remember a few years ago, Chloe Bennett literally said, Marvel doesn't care about our show. I think she said it at a convention, literally, just like that. So it ain't just us, guys. It has been noticed, it seems like, how something is just completely and totally ignored at every turn. Mm-hmm. There, I'll stop there, guys. Anyway, what were we saying about Ajak? Oh, yes. Thank you for agreeing with me that she was kind of underused.
Yeah, for sure. And again, it's just another character that, there was something set up, but I feel like there was nothing really to back it up. But I mean, her setup it's kind of complicated because I like the idea that I think there's something with these humans and all that, blah, blah, blah. But then I feel like if you're going to back that up, you're going to have to mention the other movies, and you want to make this movie stand out on its own. But then at the same time, you got to reference the other movies because, something big happened. And so it's with her character, it's kind of difficult. But yeah.
With Ajak, it's like even she says to Icarus that, for the 500 years they were apart, she, was walking among them. And while she's seen more of, how destructive and evil humans can be, she also, discovered that at every turn, with all the hate that's out there, there's still love. There's still creations. And I think that point she was convinced, but that wasn't, I would say, the origin of her noticing something. I feel like those 500 years and she was walking among people is where she was like, that's what put her over the edge of going against Arisham's design. But if you notice the first scene where I think they're in Babylon, and she contacts Arisham, and she says to him, I've followed you and never questioned you, but I've noticed something about these people, and I fear, and then she was cut off. So I think that scene was to suggest that even as far back as Babylonian times, she was noticing something about the people that destroying them was just not worth the life of a celestial. Just already there. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure how implied. I'm not sure how, if that implication was caught by most people, but it certainly makes sense looking back on it. Like, okay, this is how early she was thinking about this. I preferably would have liked to have seen a sequence where we see her be changed by these people, as she says herself. Like that's a big problem with the movie, right? It's like we're told so much of what happens, we just don't see it.
Yeah. And I feel like you really could have, for one thing, the movie, you could have edited it down.
2 hours and 37 minutes already.
That crawl in the beginning, you could have cut it out in the beginning. They mentioned a bunch of times what the deviants are. What
That's the thing, right? It's like, the crawl is it really? I mean, if it looked and it almost felt like a Star Wars crawl, but it didn't move. It was just text at the beginning.
Okay.
It was like a prologue.
Text at the beginning. Okay, sure.
But you're right, though. Like it said things that were repeated often throughout the movie. So I'm not sure what the purpose ultimately was.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have taken it out. But what I do respect, though, is how unlike Marvel that was. Like I respect the approach by Zhao to, like, off the bat just do something different, because that was a surprise. Like, oh, okay, did I just walk into a Star Wars movie? Kyle hilariously was like, great, now I have to read. Although you honestly don't need to read it, because they'll tell you everything in the movie. Mm-hmm. So I guess that kind of defeated the purpose of having that in the first place.
Mm-hmm. But then also, all of the flashback moments, you could have had her in it and, like, trying to get whichever character she's hanging out with, like, get through whatever hard moment they're having and all that. But then also, like, and she could have used the humans as a motivation for them to keep going on, walking this earth and all that. I don't know. It's just she could have been used a whole lot more, and you could have done, like, something great with her to really, like, set up her motivation and what led everyone else's motivation, basically.
Ironically enough, maybe what would have helped, although Marvel, I'm not even sure they would let themselves do it. Realistically, what would have been the best situation was the medium and the storytelling medium of television would have helped out, because you would have had the time to stretch out, and appropriately address all of these characters. The problem with it being a TV show is you wouldn't have had the budget that the movie had, and it wouldn't look as great as it does.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm thinking maybe what they could have done with this is just do what Denis Villeneuve did with Dune. Eternals Part 1, Eternals Part 2.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that would have worked better.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Or maybe it could have been trashed even more. Who knows?
I mean, I doubt it. If they announced it from the beginning that it was going to be a 2-parter, I doubt it would have been trashed. Some people would have been like, I feel this. I think they would have said the same thing with Dune. Like, they would have been like, oh, it just feels like the introduction of a movie and all that, and it felt an abrupt ending. It felt like an abrupt ending,
right?
So, but I feel like they would have been a lot more forgiving for Marvel than with Dune.
Oh, absolutely. Because we've established that people are much more forgiving because they love the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Mm-hmm. I'm not, Peter talked about it in one of the podcasts, but it's evident that a lot of people, grade the movies by Marvel on a curve just because of how popular the MCU universe is. Even Grace Randolph herself said it in one of her recent videos that yes, critics do grade the Marvel movies on a curve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty evident to me. Interestingly enough, though, you clearly didn't put this movie at the bottom of your MCU list.
Mm-hmm.
What have you made of the fact that, like, less than 50% of the critics liked the movie? And, like, what is it about this one more than the other ones? Because it's pretty, I think, crazy to think that Eternals by Chloe Zhao is the worst thing the MCU has made. Because clearly it is not.
It is not. No.
Not even close.
Ant-Man and the Wasp, like, I'm sorry, but it's boring. The jokes didn't land. for one thing, Eternals had a way better third act than
I think
Ant-Man and the Wasp.
I'm gonna say I think it had a better third act than a lot of Marvel movies.
Yeah, for sure. Just because, I mean, the power sets were really unique, each and one of them, and they utilized them very fucking well, especially for Makari.
Yeah,
her
oh my gosh,
thing
she was amazing.
Literally the best speedster I've seen. Okay, and I've seen I've seen the show.
Speedsters. Yeah,
I've seen the Zack Snyder's movie, but I mean, she was utilized so fucking well with this, and it was great. Again, great third act for the whole.
It kind of makes you like, because there's a Flash movie coming out next year.
Mm-hmm.
Man, did Eternals just kind of steal their thunder a little bit there? Because like Makari was pretty fucking amazing, and I wasn't expecting that. I got to be honest with you, I really wasn't.
Yeah,
but she was great, as you said. But no, yeah, we were talking more about the third act and all the different things that are in it, like the powers. It also just, even though like structurally speaking, it's the same thing, right? It's like you're superheroes and they have to stop the thing from the world ending. Structurally, it's the same thing, but it still feels kind of different. And I have to think it's because, first of all, it's the unique power sets.
Mm-hmm.
It's also the location too, right? It doesn't feel like we're in an Atlanta soundstage. It feels like we're on an island with the scenery of the beach, as it's kind of like ripped apart with, a volcano, and a celestial is literally popping up from under the crust of the earth. Like, it definitely looked very different than any other Marvel third act.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, it's just Chloe Zhao utilized everything: the scenery, the characters, the power sets, and the stakes of it. The thing with Shang-Chi and Black Widow, you mentioned it was a freaking soundstage. It was all CGI and everything.
The CGI and Black Widow especially?
Oh my
wow.
God. And so you're already taken out of it because of it. But then also, the one thing that bothered me in Shang-Chi's third act is when I liked the big monster fight, the CGI monster fight. Like, I thought that was cool. But then it would cut to Shang-Chi and his sister like holding onto the dragon. But all they're doing is just looking. And I'm kind of like, at the very least, just try to climb forward or something. Just kind of do something. Or like have Shang and his sister all again moving up towards the dragon's head, but also have him like keep throwing the rings back and forth just to kind of like get them away from the other monsters, Whereas with Eternals, again, everyone's fighting along. I was so fucking surprising to see the tech guy actually like fighting him, bringing out lasers and everything. And then, like, he actually like holds down Icarus and all that. I was kind of like, oh my gosh, like he's actually useful. Like he's not just the tech guy.
Right.
And so there was just a lot of surprises within the third act. And then with Black Widow, I mean, it was all hand-to-hand combat. Just, we've already seen that like a million times. I don't know what else they could have done differently. Well, for one thing, what's his name? The dad, Black Widow's dad.
Oh, David Harbour.
Yeah, David Harbour.
Hopper.
He was just sort of like sidelined. I feel like you could have been a lot more. I mean, this could have been a
dude. I'm struggling to remember where he was in the third act.
Yeah, he's just following Black Widow, and you could have done it. You could have done an Incredibles moment where they're all working together. He's like, the dad is like trying to like get all the women to step away from them. The mom maybe is trying to like shoot people from the back, and then have Black Widow and her sister just teaming up, fighting together and all that. And then at one point do the whole Black Widow pose, and she's just like, fine, it's fun or something. I don't know. Like, you could have done a lot more with the last fight, but they rather. But the thing though, it's kind of hard to do that because you don't they don't know what the stage looks like yet. It all has to be done in post, and so all they can do is just
right. So I guess what helped the ensemble with Eternals is I'm going to assume they actually went to a beach or something, because like it felt like very little of this movie felt like we were on like an actual set. Like the whole thing feels to an extent like it was you know, aside from like, okay, the Babylonian shots or maybe some of the when they were in the history, but a lot of the shots felt like they went out on location. Like that particular third act felt like they were at a beach, and so maybe that helped them.
I feel like there were pictures of them on that beach. I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know. I don't remember. So I'm pretty sure it was on location, that last fight.
But that's what I've been saying, right? It's like I've been saying for years now that Marvel has been overly reliant on blue walls and sound stages and parking garages, and like I think with Eternals you see how much more worthwhile it is to go on location and more practical stuff as well, not just, you know, I know like with Infinity War and Endgame, those movies were entirely VFX, but they were good. They were great.
The thing though, the battle in Wakanda, that was on location. Wasn't like, you know, they weren't, I don't think they were in Africa or anything, but that was like an open field. They literally created a river just so they can just add more stuff to the place. And again, they utilized that. It's still one of my favorite shots, but when Captain America and Black Panther are running together, just like blocking it, running past their army, and then when they jump over the river, like it's just, you know, it's a small thing, but like that kind of just adds more dynamic to the fight. You know, they're ready to jump in and they start fighting all of them with leaving behind their army.
Right.
You know that it's again, they're utilizing the scenery as much as they can.
A couple of things. I don't want to let this go because there's an anomaly here, right? So the same team does the VFX for all the Marvel movies. Okay, couple of things. Back to Black Widow. That whole third act. It's pretty fucking embarrassing how bad that looked. Because it's trying to be a spy franchise. It's trying to emulate the best of the spy movies. But then when you look at No Time to Die, and you look how fucking amazing all of the action sequences were. Wow. I mean, they blew her out of the water. It really did. Now, okay, both Black Widow and Shang-Chi had some moments where the CGI, or shall we just say the VFX, failed them so to the point where the CGI did not just have an effect to it that looked noticeable, but just bad and ugly. We established that this has been a reoccurring thing. However, I've been saying that Infinity War and Endgame didn't have those problems. And Peter's theory of the case was, well, because those were priorities. And so they had to look great. Whereas these others, I guess, don't. And I feel that's kind of another, you know, that also proves Peter's other theory of the case where Marvel's just making too many movies. This wasn't a problem when they were making a movie a year or 2 movies a year. But now we're up to 4.
Well, were these supposed to come out in the same year? Because again, COVID
they were not. No, they were not. Like I think last year we were supposed to get Black Widow, that's for sure. And I think we were gonna get. I think we were gonna get it. I don't know what happened with when we were supposed. I think we were supposed to get Eternals earlier. I think maybe last year. Yeah, that's true. I think Eternals was supposed to be a 2020 movie. And then that one got delayed. So you think maybe Eternals got more time? Because Eternals looked great.
Well, I mean, I don't know which movie got more time or anything. it's just, it really was kind of priority, I guess. Honestly, Black Widow, they didn't really care at that point. They just were like, okay, we got to give her a movie at least for the
God
fans.
damn.
And so they just threw whatever they could. Whereas with Eternals, that's part of their new show, and so they want to like make it look great and all. But then also, I mean, I don't know, what helps VFX artists the most is just kind of like, I mean, I don't know. I've never worked on a movie. I don't know how VFX works, but I feel like there's some things a director can do to help VFX artists make their job a little bit easier.
Like with everything, the director of a movie matters.
Mm-hmm. And like with, for example, Dune, people pointed out that budget was way lower than Black Widow, or not way lower, but like lower than Black Widow.
A lot lower, honestly.
Oh, okay.
Though. That's for sure. It was a lot lower than Black Widow. I think may have been almost $100 million more.
Then
at least 250. I'm thinking at least 250 million, and I think Dune was at the 160 range.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, with Dune, there was a moment in Dune where the CGI looked, it wasn't bad, but like you could tell, like, okay, this was heavily CG'd. It was this big battle moment. I won't spoil it much. But then everything else, though, what helped it, for one thing, some of it took place at night. That's always very helpful. That's why to this day, Jurassic Park, that scene with the T-Rex in the rain, it's still one of the best CGI moments. It's because it's dark, very helpful for them. But then also you get moments where, they're from a far distance away, so it's kind of easier to kind of give it like a little haze for distance and to work the CGI and all that. And I think, I don't know about the movie sets, but it feels like they created a lot of sets for the movie, so they weren't, and the costumes were all practical, so there wasn't really much else to do other than just maybe use some sort of VFX to fix up the image or something like that. So there's a lot of things a director can do to help the VFX artists make the jobs easier. Whereas with Black Widow, though, it was just like, you guys got to do everything. Hey, here's this light. Here's the source of the light. Here's the key light. Now you got to make her fit in it. And so then now you have one person relying on making a helicopter, the sky, certain motions, certain debris falling in the third act and all that. And so it's just making things more and more complicated. And with the fact that VFX artists, like, they're kind of, I don't know, underpaid, overworked a lot already.
They're underpaid, they're overworked, and more to that point, again, people take this, some people are angry when she's used as a source, but I have reason to expect that a lot of the stuff she says about Marvel is to be true. I know Randolph said some inaccurate statements that the people who work in VFX for a movie also do a trailer. No, it's been long known that there are literal movie trailer companies with their own teams that do this. Perhaps I think what she meant to say is the fact that she hears that people tell her that the team that's doing the VFX for Spider-Man No Way Home are working 7 days a week just to be able to get the movie done on time for December. Not just them, but then also they got a little bit more time now that the movie was been delayed a few months, which was Multiverse of Madness. But there is reason to believe that, you know how a few weeks back Marvel announced that all their movies are moving back a couple of months, all because to give all for their VFX teams, because they just need more time. So I'm going to hope that means the quality is going to come back up to what it was, you know? But I got to David, when did you begin to notice this problem with VFX in Marvel movies? Or was it always a problem? I don't think it was a problem until they started doing 3 movies a year.
When did I notice it?
It's hard to see which one it was.
I guess Black Panther. That one. That Black Panther was literally the first time I've ever complained about the CGI of any movie.
I will say, I just thought of it. 2017. There were two movies, that are actually were in my top 10. They're great overall, but I noticed a couple of sequences that were very noticeably, this is a blue wall behind you. Like, I could tell this is pretty not great. Thor Ragnarok and Guardians 2. Guardians 2, the whole scene where Ego and Peter are playing catch.
Mm-hmm.
Man, you go back and look at that. That is a pretty just like, that's nothing. It's just the animation around them, and it's noticeably animated.
Mm-hmm.
In Thor Ragnarok, I think when they're in Norway and Odin is saying goodbye to Loki and Thor, the background's fake, and it's noticeably fake.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think for that one at least, I mean, still bad, but for that one, I think that was kind of like a last minute
shoot.
Yeah, because there's been some. I think there's like a deleted scene, and some pictures of Odin. You know, he's dressed up like a hobo and everything, like just super dirty.
Right.
And so I'm guessing that one was first, and this one was added later. I don't know why, but yeah. But I mean, either way, it was still pretty bad, and that just kind of shows like VFX artists just need time to work on this
but
shit.
You're right, though. I think it was even more noticeable in Black Panther. And I convinced myself it was because I wasn't so hot on the purple hue or the purple energy beam that would come off, or the force field of his suit in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was that, but I just genuinely don't think it looks that great. And there were even some shots of the Black Panther himself where it's like, I can tell this isn't real. Whereas, like, because look at Captain America: Civil War. Every scene with Black Panther, Chadwick Boseman's there. That's the suit.
He's there. He's in a suit, and it's not full. It's not completely. It's not complete. They have like those bands on his arm to kind of like help with the motion capture of it. But either way, though, like they did enough with the costume so that they didn't have to touch him up a lot. It was really just to kind of like put some shiny parts on his helmet, adding a little bit more details. I think it's just basically that, just adding like kind of shiny metal looking stuff into his suit. But I think like some of the patterns are still there in it. And so again, just these are just little things to help the VFX artist.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see where this goes next. What the other movies coming up. I am wondering, though, how we're going to think about Eternals in the weeks and months to come. Because, and I know I've been saying it a couple of times, but it's already aged really well on me. I think the problems I have with the movie, I think I still have. But I think I've just kind of gotten to the place where I appreciate and actually really like the movie and admire what it's going for, where I feel like I can overlook them and just accept the movie for what it is. And I think it's honestly pretty great that, you know, I can have a movie where honestly has some pretty big flaws, pretty big setbacks, but I can still kind of appreciate it and like it as much as I do. Like I said, every time I saw it, the more I liked it. And so, yeah, I'd go back and, if you have the time, David, go back and give it another watch and see how it is. But, like, Peter, I think, seemed to enjoy it more the second time. I felt it even more the third time. So, yeah. I think this probably is like the upteenth time, perhaps, we all have, like, the direct opposite take. That, granted, Eternals has some diehard fans. It's not like everybody completely hates it, but it has gotten some hate. And, well, go figure, we're not part of that train. We actually kind of liked and dig this movie, with its faults and everything. It is kind of like a reverse Batman v Superman for us, though, because Batman v Superman has so many fucking problems. And while there is stuff in there that's great, you kind of have to look hard, though, but there's some great stuff in there. It's bad. Like, bad, and whatever good doesn't, like, earn any goodwill through it, you know? Like, but there are similarities where, like, it's long. It does depend on the viewer to fill in the gaps with the main characters there. But what would you say is the different? What's different in the case of Eternals where it wasn't with, let's say, BVS or even Justice League?
I mean, with BVS, I honestly didn't care about the characters, really.
Yeah, well, there's that.
Yeah, I mean, I liked the gritty Batman and all, like him being violent, but I don't know, it's just nothing about him I really cared for his motivation. Like, I understand the motivation, you know, he saw two dudes just wrecking a city and all that, so like I understand why he wants to stop Superman. But I don't know. Well, I think, well, for one thing, with Batman's character, you know, I really do like his no kill rule in the comics, and so for him to just go straight to wanting to kill him, it just kind of made me go, I don't care. Like, I kind of wish he would go for it with he's just trying to suppress his powers, see if he can do it more. So, and then I have no idea what was going on with Superman's character. Like,
no one does.
I don't, like, what was his struggle exactly?
Nah.
Is it, I don't, I think, I mean, I guess that's just, that is the big thing. I don't think anything that what the characters were going through really connected. Like,
I you know what? I'm sorry for bringing it up in the first place. It's just like, let's not relitigate that one. You know,
I honestly, like, even like, oh my gosh, you said it a bunch of times, in the Fantasy Fair one, but like the Eternals movie, it's dense. Like, there's a lot of information to take in,
right.
But I still understood what was going on with the characters and the plot. So I don't know. Like, I shouldn't really be confused.
That is a
with
big
BVS.
thing. That is a big thing, though. It's like, you're right. We shouldn't be confused with BVS. There's far less characters. I mean, it's just basically Batman and Superman. Eternals makes us like the characters. That's a strength Marvel has always had. They have likable characters, but there's also enough beside them to care about and to appreciate. And even though, like, it's like there have been some interesting comparisons stuff, because, like, you know, Zack Snyder treats his superheroes like gods, and then Chloe Zhao's Eternals are literal gods, you know, for lack of a better term. And I have noticed a lot of comparisons, or even people saying that Chloe Zhao flat out did a DC movie, because you know how DC superheroes, I guess, in many ways, are perceived as gods. Roth Cornet had a pretty interesting take that I saw earlier today. Roth Cornet, formerly of Fandom, or at least I think she's still on there, from Screen Junkies. This is where her tweet was. It's pretty late, but I'm thinking about wading into the Eternals conversation. If there's conversation to be had, one overarching thought is that it is an interesting, odd, fit as a Marvel movie. But more than that, it's a really good DC movie. That's not a quality comparison. Just that these characters really are more ideas and archetypes than flawed, relatable beings. And they are that way by design. And it's a really interesting take. I mean, I want to unpack this more with Peter, but it's like I have been noticing a lot of people say that I should say compare this to how Zack Snyder treated his characters in the Justice League. Because Zack Snyder views those superheroes as gods more than he does as like actual, instead of how Marvel treats their superheroes, which their superheroes are like, they're human and they're easy to connect to, right? And one common criticism of the Eternals movie is that it's hard to connect with actual gods. I would say why people feel that way is because, again, the movie does a lot of tell, not show. That's the problem more so than anything else. But yeah, that's an interesting area of conversation. But was there any other thoughts you had on Eternals, or are we going to leave it there for now?
I guess we can just leave it there.
Okay. Well, we had one thing I will say is what I do appreciate of the Eternals is, for as much as it still is a Marvel movie, it still is a Chloe Zhao film. But I think more so than any other Marvel film, I can see how it feels to me less like a superhero film. Again, it still has the mechanics of a Marvel superhero movie, but it's dressed in a really nice way where it feels like a sci-fi epic more than a superhero movie. And Chloe Zhao has said that she used Ridley Scott's, I think Ridley Scott did this movie, Prometheus. Did you ever see Prometheus? That's an interesting one, because there from the point of view of the engineers were apparently gods. So, just more food for thought there. So, but we also had another sci-fi epic just 2 weeks before, and that was with Dune, Denis Villeneuve. Alexis told me that you really liked the podcast conversation we had, Peter and I. I thought it rather informative, because there were a lot of things I didn't know about this universe or the history of the franchise. And I thought Peter gave a pretty easy understanding of, to where we can catch up with like the history, what some things meant that we didn't catch, and it gave us a good picture of like where we're going to go with this. So I thought it myself as well, that it was pretty instructive about where we would go. Dune has aged really well for me. That one is like the opposite of Eternals, where it's like, I have no problems. Well, really no. There are some, I guess, issues, but overall, I loved it the first time. I loved it the second time. It's a great movie. I'm thinking about it still. Can't wait for more. There's that.
No, yeah, I loved it too. When you mentioned the podcast you and Peter did, I agree. Like, it was very informative. I love knowing more about the universe. But the best part, though, is like I didn't really need to know this in the movie. Yeah. It's just like I got enough from it. And I mean, the movie did what Villeneuve wanted to, which is just kind of like get me sucked into this world, and hopefully, like, I get the feeling of wanting to follow these characters in the next one, which I really do. So I can't wait for part 2. But honestly, though, it's just really, I really do love his cinematography work. It's so great, the visuals and all that. And I think I know some people are comparing it to Lord of the Rings, of big world and all that. And it did what I liked about the first Lord of the Rings movie, which is that all of the characters were just kind. Like, they all cared about each other, they all cared about others, and I think that's just a good thing to do especially if you're gonna, like, really separate
they felt real
and all that. Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to do in a dystopian future of some sort. I'm not sure of dystopia, but it's a far off civilization in the future that presentation wise, you look at it and like, whoa, things have changed for humanity. That's for sure. And it's so alien in nature. It's like, how can you make these characters feel human? They do a pretty good fucking job, not just with the actors, but with the writing as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I honestly, I loved it. I still need to watch it again. Definitely, this is my one tiny complaint about the movie, and I told you, I couldn't hear most of the dialogue.
That's fair.
Fucking the main actor and the one that plays his mom, like they're whispering for like the entire movie, and I'm just kind of like, please speak up. Oh, like my hearing is shit. And especially with Hans Zimmer's score blasting.
Yeah, the score probably didn't do any favors, that's for sure, because Hans Zimmer has never been subtle, has he? It's been pretty fucking loud. Although this isn't an excuse. There's no excuse, obviously, and you shouldn't be driven to this point, but they do have hearing aids for people who that have a hard time hearing the movie in the theaters. So that is an option. That for those that need help with it. That way they can have the audio in their ear, I think. So
that's interesting.
That's an option to explore if that becomes an issue, although it shouldn't be that way. That's for sure.
I mean, I'm also just also fine with just rewatching it, and I'll put subtitles.
It just occurred to me though, like I wonder what would be. That would be a really fascinating, like, double feature day. Dune and Eternals.
Yeah, both are very slow paced. But I honestly didn't feel it with Dune at all. I did kind of feel it with
with Eternals, the first time I saw it, for sure, low energy. That's for sure. With Dune, it was deliberately paced, but it never felt, it never felt slow. That's the thing. Like, it was, but it never felt that way. And that's a big, big deal.
Yeah, for sure. But, yeah.
Okay. Anything else on Dune?
No. I'm still debating whether to read the book or not. Because I got the book. It's just I'm kind of like, should I read it or should I wait to see what he does?
Yeah. Well, there are a couple of different ways you could do it, right? Kyle went and did what Peter called it cheating, what Kyle did. I'm not saying this in case Kyle listens, although he doesn't really listen to any podcast that you're on for whatever reason. But Peter said that Kyle cheated he basically just read Wikipedia entries and see what happens next. And you're like, no. Peter read the book, so I think that definitely counts. And like, you read all of Invincible, didn't you?
Yeah.
So you see, like, I could do that, but I'd rather just watch it on the show. That would be my preferred way of doing it. I could read Dune, and I wouldn't be opposed to reading it, but I feel like there are two valid arguments to be made when it comes to like watching material that's based off text. It can either greatly enhance your experience of the adaptation, or it could set up unreasonable expectations and then lead to disappointment in the adaptation. I know a while back, a long time ago, some friend of mine was saying, well, maybe you should consider reading the Civil War comic book before the movie comes out. And I was like, I don't really want to do that because I feel like that's just going to set up expectations that I don't really need. Especially since the Civil War movie was very different than the Civil War comic book. Like, it's almost not even the same thing at all. Like, we were all, like, I think a lot of people were thinking that Civil War was going to be what the comic was. Remember, I think in the early days, we all thought, like, Tom Holland would be playing the same role that the character played in the comics. He doesn't. Not even in the slightest. There's, like, no... You see how different the story is? To the point where it was kind of surprising how much of a direct sequel Civil War is to Winter Soldier. More than anything else. It also is, yes, Avengers Part 3, technically speaking, but it also is Captain America 3, so there's that. What were we talking about?
Whether I should read the book.
Oh. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm tired, man. Yeah. You could. I won't. But if you want to, you could. I mean, you like to read, so if you want to read something, I probably would read that. But then,
yeah. I mean,
you're not going to get more Dune until 2023.
True.
It's a long time.
I'm still reading a bunch of other books, so we'll see if I get to it.
Okay. So you saw No Time to Die.
Yeah.
What did you think? What did you expect going into it, and what did you think walking out?
So I tried watching the other Daniel Craig James Bond. I only got to his second movie.
Yeah.
And I don't think James Bond is for me.
Yeah.
Like, I was able to watch Fast and Furious, like, and I loved them. But James Bond just isn't for me.
Honestly, man, I feel the same way for the most part because I remember watching Casino Royale and Skyfall and Spectre, the Daniel Craig era James Bond movies, and they're great action movies, but I feel kind of the same way where in a way it's not for me because it just didn't grab me. Like I can tell like what I'm seeing on screen is great, but it didn't grab me. I understand you. It's like, so you did watch Quantum of Solace?
Was that the second one?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess so.
That one I didn't watch, and I think that one is probably the weaker one of all of them. But yeah, if it didn't grab you, but you still went to go see No Time to Die, or you saw that one first?
I still want to go see No Time to Die.
And what did you think?
It was fine.
Yeah, it is James Bond.
Yeah, I mean, it's James Bond. Like, it's just it, again, doesn't really do much for me. The action was great. I did like seeing more emotion, I guess, from the character. And I actually was sad about this one other character dying. And so, I mean, that was something. But ultimately, like, it was okay.
Yeah.
It was, I think it was a cool send off, I guess,
Sure,
for his character.
It's just hard. It's hard to care when you're not really invested. It's hard to care when you don't care, period. So I think that's a hard thing to get over. I will say that for me, I didn't much care at all really going into it, but I kind of love the movie, to be honest with you. Like, I think No Time to Die is legitimately great. With its problems, it's very bloated. It didn't need to be as long as it was. That's for sure. But I just think what really won me over was the craft, how great it's made, but it also is like the only Bond movie that actually has an emotional arc for James Bond. And so that went a long way in making me like the character, and I just love the performances so much. It's like it's to me, more than anything, what I love about No Time to Die is like, it's not I don't think of it as a finale because like it's a finale to something primarily that I really don't care about. So I don't look at it as a finale. I just look at it as a really good old-fashioned movie, but just made in 2021, but still with those old-fashioned sensibilities. And I think when I look at that movie, it's just such a champion for, like, you could still, how a lot of the old ways of movie making are still kind of the best ways of it. On location, practical effects, the stunt choreography. It's just beautiful. And of course, you got Hans Zimmer there, doing a beautiful score that's not his typical style of score. It's not like a blah, just blaring at you the entire time. So I kind of love this movie, and I was surprised that I did, because I was thinking I was going to walk into it and probably feel like you're feeling right now. It's like, it's okay. I just don't care about this. No, I think it made me care, actually, about James Bond for the first time. So there is that. So, you want to talk about Lucifer. It's over.
Yes. Great fucking show, honestly. It's just, from the beginning, they took an interesting take of Lucifer, this being. And I liked what they did from the beginning, which is basically kind of like deconstruct, I guess, Lucifer, and kind of explain as to why he is the way that he is. But also just give the different perspective, like what we usually see of Lucifer, like pure evil, bring about the end of the world and all that. But it's like, nah, it's just I'm just doing my thing, guys. And you guys should all do your thing, like do whatever you want. And so as like they break down like why he is the way he is, you start caring about him more and more. And it's sort of like that thing with The Good Place of like, how do you become a better version of yourself? And that's exactly what he was in the very end. He's still, he's still bringing on that charm to people. He still likes to make dumb sexual innuendos everywhere he can and all that. But ultimately, like, he, instead of just letting people be who they are, like how he always done, instead he tried to look at people as to how they can become better. And that was just a really interesting thing to do with, again, Lucifer of all people. And it was I just love where all the characters ended up in the end. I think they were exactly where they needed to be in the end. So yeah, so I'm so glad Netflix got the show, man. I'm so glad we got an ending. It was great.
Do you think I'd like this show?
I think so.
Yeah.
The first 2 seasons, I think. I can't remember when they got it from, when Netflix got it. But it's just very much what is it, procedural?
Yeah.
The episodes. It's a detective show and all that. But there's definitely one season where like they fucking hook you in for sure. But again, I think you'll find the actor who plays Lucifer, I think you'll find him pretty charming. He's really funny. And then all the other characters are just great. So yeah, I think you might enjoy it.
Okay, so
it's definitely worth the watch.
It sounds like they had a great finale and they went out on top.
Yeah, I think so.
That's good.
I haven't really, I only heard one review, but I think they had a good ending.
Okay, I'll definitely put that one on the list then. And so Lock and Key.
I
also on Netflix.
Yeah, it's also on Netflix. I really liked the first season of it, and a lot of it would have to do is because of the family relationship. Thing that surprised me the most, like, is that it wasn't the whole a daughter yelling at the mom that she's ruining her life. All the siblings are just fighting all the time. Like, no, every single one of them cared about each other whenever they had a problem. They had tried to help each other out. There was a moment in the first season, it's not that spoilerish, but yeah, the mom is an alcoholic. She hadn't drank in a while, but in the first season she drank. And, I feel like if it was any other show, one of the kids would have been like judgmental about it or something, or they would have been really pissed. But no, instead they were like, "Hey, I think mom started drinking again," and the other person went, "Cool, what do we do?" And they tried to help her out, and so I was just like, "That's awesome." And second season, they really did that again this season. All of the characters, especially the mom character, who's like, she has no idea what's going on with the plot and everything, but I love what she was going through in this season. And again, just all the characters, they're in a situation, they're going to work on it together. If they have something they want to prioritize more, they'll help, they'll let them do it, or they'll help each other out in some way. And just all these characters, they're a freaking family. They care about each other. And so that's just one thing what I like about the show. In terms of the plot itself, I actually really like the villain this season. The actor, I can't remember his name, but he came out, and I don't know if you ever saw it, but this like Netflix mockumentary. Oh my god, what's it called? Damn, it's a mockumentary. The first season had to do with figuring out who spray painted dicks on the teachers' cars. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
No, I'm not sure I have. No.
Oh my gosh, you should. Oh,
I'm sure it was Peter Martinez, because he's known doing that.
Honestly, you should watch. If I figure out what the show is, I'll tell you about it. But you should definitely watch that mockumentary. It's great. But he came out in it, and he was just sort of like a side character, not much. And so when he was in this and becoming a villain, I was kind of like, yo, this guy, he's got some potential. And so it was pretty entertaining to see him. But the plot itself, it's fine. Bad guy wants to kind of like rule the world, but I like, again, what they all went through to kind of get to where they needed to stop the bad guy. It was really entertaining. So I don't know if they're gonna get another season, but we'll see.
What thoughts, if any, do you have about a couple of trailers? Did you see the Home Alone, Sweet Home Alone bullshit thing on Disney Plus?
Yeah, I saw it. That kid, the main kid, that's the kid from Jojo Rabbit, right? Not the main kid from the movie, but the friend.
Is it?
Yeah, it looks like him.
I didn't think about that, but maybe you're right.
Yes, I mean, if it's him, that's like the only thing that I'm excited for about the movie is that it's him, and I thought it was really cool.
You're
Jojo
right.
Rabbit.
No. Archie Yates. Yes. I feel bad. This movie is so obviously dog shit, and it's gonna be the reviews are gonna be savage.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm hopeful that the main kid will do a pretty good performance and all that.
Sure. But honestly, yeah, for his sake.
But honestly, though, literally they've done a bunch of Home Alone movies, or like, different versions of Home Alones, and no one ever talks about them. So I don't know why Disney try to make one. It's just dumb, honestly.
Because I mean, it's what we asked for, David. I mean, of course we wanted another Home Alone movie. It's like, why would they make National Treasure 3 when we can get, a remake of Turner and Hooch with Josh Peck? Why would they give us a Haunted Mansion movie when they can just do a crappy Muppets version of it? Why would they give us The Princess Diaries 3 when they can just give us a remake of Trains, Planes, and Automobiles? Why would they give us something like, maybe a reimagining of Halloween Town, when they can just give us 3 Men and a Baby?
I don't know.
Or a spin-off show with Gaston and LeFou from the Beauty and the Beast live action movie.
Oh god, that's still happening.
Yeah, that's still happening. Oh man, yeah, that's bad. What did you think of the trailer for Lightyear?
Oh,
If you listen to both Fantasy Fair and Red Spotlight, we had very different reactions.
yeah,
to
for
that
sure.
trailer.
I definitely had very different reactions to you guys, and I mean, I agree with everything you guys said.
Yeah.
Like, I understand why you guys found it weird. I understand. It really is just like how they came up with the premise of the movie. That's like super fucking weird. Because if they were like, we just want to make an origin story of Buzz Lightyear, then I would have been like really okay with the movie. But the fact that they're promoting it as this is the movie that Andy saw that got him to buy the toy or want the toy is like, no. I feel like that's not, no. And so like I definitely understand why you guys thought it was like a weird trailer, just a weird premise in general, like of the movie. But I actually did enjoy the trailer, mostly because I actually didn't want the whole space alien battle shoot 'em up movie,
Right.
Because I was just kind of like it's just not gonna be as I don't think it's gonna be as good as the cartoon. And it's just gonna be a little bit over the top. So the fact that it gives off like Martian vibes or something, or just kind of like
Yeah.
maybe possible space odyssey type of thing, seems pretty interesting for me. But yeah, again, it's still weird that this is how they're promoting the movie, that it's Andy's movie.
It's just, it feels weird because it's a different version of Buzz Lightyear. It's a different version of Buzz Lightyear, and I don't know if I'll get over it. I think I will get over it, but it'll just take time. And it's Pixar, so the odds are overwhelmingly good. The movie will be good.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not great, but it'll at the very least be good. That's how they usually are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, yeah, I think I'm still gonna be entertained by it.
Honest opinion, real quick. How many bad movies? Not movies like I know that. How many bad movies do you think Pixar has actually made? And that's not the same thing as movies you don't care for, but just like bad movies.
I mean,
Or do you like all of them?
I guess I like all of them. Like you mentioned, like there are some that I just don't really care about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like Up or Toy Story 4.
Mm-hmm. Toy Story 4. Honestly, Incredibles 2 in a way. Like it's fun to watch, but like it's just
that to me is among the weakest of them, because that one very much feels like this could be so much more, but it's not.
Yeah. No, honestly, I don't think they've actually ever made a bad movie. I know some people will say Cars 2 would probably be the bad movie, but I found it entertaining. So
I found it entertaining too. For better or for worse, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess The Good Dinosaur.
Yeah.
I could probably consider that a pretty bad movie.
It's pretty nothing,
Yeah, but I mean, one movie that I can like barely consider bad out of the 24, or so. I mean, they got good odds. I was gonna say, I think I still might like the movie even if Chris Evans is voicing Buzz Lightyear.
You didn't like the voice?
No, I mean, I don't mind him playing him if it was live action. It just feels weird that
Tim Allen wasn't brought back.
Tim Allen. Yeah.
Well,
and then it just kind of bothers me a bit more though now because I think it was a director. His reason for hiring Chris Evans is because he said that Chris Evans is able to bring like that stoicism to the character, but also be funny. And I was just kind of like, you wanted Captain America. That's all you wanted.
Basically, yeah.
And so now I'm kind of like, I don't think we're going to get like full Captain America like he is in the MCU, but I understand what you're trying to go for.
What did you think of the Boba Fett trailer?
I didn't see it. I really didn't.
And that's our show, everybody. Wow. Okay. That's honest. That's man. We really don't care about that shit. Okay. All right then. Well, we're just gonna go ahead and end it off here. Thank you, David, for being on the show. Thank you for giving us your thoughts, and thank you everybody for listening. And we'll be back next time on Red Spotlight with more content on the way. Bye-bye.
Bye.